Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you've been before, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Every month we get together to talk about all things renovation and design. In the past, we've covered topics like, backyard renovations, Feng Shui for your home office. We've talked about getting the most bang for your buck on an investment renovation. Um, and how to maximize your budget. We have a ton of topics. There'll be a link below where you can click and binge our full series if you'd like. And of course, as always, we have our favorite designer with us, Kate Troyer, Feng Shui stylist. Thank you for joining us, Kate.
Thanks for
And
having me.
of course, and while we're going through, I want you guys to also be thinking about renovation financing and how that can help you achieve all these goals. And so renovation financing can be used to purchase and renovate or refinance and renovate. My name is Victoria Dowling. I head up the renovation team here across country, and we help folks use these loans to do things like turn that home in the right neighborhood, maybe to the house you were looking for. So maybe you're searching for a house now and you can't find one that's the right size. You need something a little bit bigger. Well, you can use a renovation loan to purchase and build an addition. Or maybe you found a house that just has some difficulty with it, like it's got a hole in the roof or chipping, peeling paint, but it's in the right neighborhood and you know you could make it what you want for you and your family. You can again use renovation financing to purchase a property like that, even if it's in disrepair. And the great thing is that all of the down payments are still really low, just like the regular loans you're looking at. Down payments start as low as 3%. And USDA and VA even have 100% financing options. So there's some great options out there. And as far as refinance goes, if you currently own your house, maybe somebody told you at one point you don't have enough equity to take the cash out for this renovation. Well, the nice thing about renovation financing is we're always lending against that future value of your house. So you have a lot more flexibility than you would with traditional financing. And we consider it like a rate and term refinance because all that money is going right back into your house. So it's less risky, which means, again, we can lend more than a cash out refinance or a HELOC would. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And today we're going to talk about different renovations and projects you could do to help transition your space. So maybe the function that it used to hold for you doesn't make sense anymore, and you need to relook at what it can be used for today. One of the things I love about this topic is not only does it apply to you if you already own a home, but it does also apply to you if you're out looking for a home. I know lots of times you're out, you're looking at a house, and maybe you can't get past in your head how the seller has that room set up. Maybe they have it set up as a playroom and you have no need for a playroom. So hopefully we can give you guys some ideas as you're out there looking at homes, or if you're a realtor out there showing homes to your clients, for different ways those spaces could be used. So with that being said, let's start with our first topic. So Kate, kids going into college, we had a room that your kid was living in, they're going to be gone. I know everyone thinks they're going to come back, they're going to stay. That doesn't really happen, right? So tell us, Kate, what do you think about that space and how it could be repurposed?
Yeah, I think we need to ask ourselves, do we really want that to happen? Do we want them to come back and stay? Maybe at first you do, but maybe in the long run, not so much. And I think too, with like within our culture and like with movies and stuff like that, we've idolized this idea of like never changing the room so that every time your kids come back, they get to have this piece of nostalgia. And really, I look at that and like, while that's kind of a nice, fun, warm, fuzzy feeling idea, it's not really realistic. You don't want to hang on to your kids' stuff in your new home, because to me, that symbolizes that we're not letting go of the kids. We're trying to hold on to their memories. And really, that's not really ours to hang on to, right? Our job is to move on in our lives and start maybe, filling that space where the kids used to be, with some new stuff in our personal life. And then how we can do that in our home is transitioning that room that the kids used to live in. So I think first and foremost, we want to identify the needs of your family, right? Do you have some other spaces that are guest bedrooms to where, maybe you don't need a guest bedroom? Maybe this could now turn into a home office. Maybe it does need to be a guest bedroom for when your kids come home from college because you don't have any other space. Maybe it needs to function as both a small home office and an extra bedroom. Maybe it could serve, maybe you still have three other kids at home and it could be a really nice kind of like den or hangout room for those kids. So I think that with all of these topics that we're going to talk about, they all could kind of become one of the same thing, but it's like, really, what does your family need? What does your circumstance need? Maybe all your kids are gone and you've always painted and all that stuff's always been in the basement, but now that everybody's gone, you turn it into your art studio. So I think just giving the permission to make it whatever fits your lifestyle is really important. And just reminding yourself that it's okay to allow yourself to move through this transition of your children being gone and changing the room to create a new space that's centered around your needs and not your kids' needs, which I know for parents can be hard, especially when it's this, your kids are leaving for the first time. Like it takes some time to kind of adjust to like, oh, I can focus a little bit more on my needs now. So those would kind of be like my tips as far as what you can do with the space. As far as your kids going to college, I think this is not just about a time for your kids to transition, but more importantly, a time for you to transition and maybe bring forth some crafts or hobbies or whatever that you've kind of had to put on the back burner for so long. And now you get to acknowledge you and turn this into a space that serves you instead.
I love that. One of the things I love about this topic that we're covering today is because I feel like so many people look at the house when they're first moving in and make those important decisions that serve their family at that point in their life. And it is
Hmm.
something you can revisit. I know we talked about before too, maybe now you don't need as big a room for a guest room as you might have needed for your kid who was living there. So maybe you're going to steal a little space from that room to build a laundry room that goes out into the hall and now have a slightly smaller guest bedroom. Maybe maybe your kids were sharing a room and so they got the big bedroom and now you want to take that as the master suite and your other kid can move into your room. So I just feel like so many people do kind of have their home frozen in time from when they
Yeah.
purchased and decorated it. And it is so important to take a moment to step back and think about, what do I actually need today and how could this space better serve me? And with renovation financing, certainly you can move walls. You could put in a bathroom and make it an ensuite. There are lots of little things that you could do. Even you could move windows. The first time I saw somebody do that, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. Like, oh yeah, if you need to move a window so that now this room is more functional for whatever the new purpose is, whether you're putting in built-in cabinets and you need it to be above, or want to put windows on either side of where a bed's going to go. There's just lots you can do that are smaller changes that change that function of the room too. So I love that we're looking at this. And another thing, Kate, that I know we were talking about was that unused office or homeschooling space, because so
Hmm.
many people during the pandemic had to take a step back and now find space in their home they could dedicate to this. And now that the guidelines are changing, we're finding that that space doesn't need to be used for that anymore. So, what are your recommendations for kind of that space?
So I think, again, I think this comes back to, you're going to hear me say this a million times today, but what's going to serve you now in your space? And so let's say that like this might be a chance where you had a guest room before and it changed into your your office slash a schooling space for your kids, or one or the other because you weren't really having guests over and everybody was at home. And so I think that maybe now holidays are getting ready to come back around, which is absolutely crazy. I feel like we're going to be talking about Christmas before we know it. But now that that's coming back around, this might be a great time to say, we really wanted to have that big Christmas again this year. We haven't all been together, in a couple years. I want everybody to stay. We have this office, or we have this schooling space that, we don't really use anymore. Maybe you do have a small desk in there with a computer or a laptop. Is there one, could that stay there? And now you can create this beautiful guest room. And even if you just set that up for like over the holidays or something, and then you revisit, okay, what do we long term want this space to be? Something that you just mentioned about how, things kind of stay stuck in time and we don't really revisit. It shouldn't just be when you are, when this big event is happening or someone's going away. Yes, that's what we're talking about today. But the fact is that you are always changing. Your needs are always changing. Your life is always changing. So you should constantly be thinking about, oh, how can I tweak my home, or add this room, or adjust this thing so that it's really serving our life better? Because your home can do one of two things. It can make your life easier and more pleasant, or it can make your life harder. And so you kind of get to choose which one it wants to be. So maybe this office and schooling room is something that you now want to turn into a guest room for the holidays. And then maybe you're going to revisit, hey, what's this long term going to be? Maybe it's also, like you mentioned, maybe you have 5 bedrooms and you would be fine with 4, and the sale of your house would be good with 4, but you've always wanted that like amazing master suite. So you look at the renovation side to go ahead and like take that largest bedroom and add a bathroom to it, and so on and so forth. Because you could create a combination room like I talked about a minute ago. You could even say, you know what, we have a laptop in here. Does it really need a desk? Or can it go at this little, stationary kind of spot in our living room, in our kitchen, in our entranceway, something like that. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. But I think looking at, maybe you look at the near future with the holidays and decide if there's something you can do there and then revisit it, or go the renovation route and you could kind of do whatever. You could make it into whatever you want.
Absolutely. And if you are looking to make it a combo room, something I was thinking about too is you could do like install a Murphy bed. So maybe you're going to
Yeah.
get some cabinetry that's a Murphy bed, and when it folds up, it's got a little desk you can put your laptop on. You could even build in the electrical to that, and then when you're not using it, fold it down, and now it's your guest room, and your guest can stay there. Built-in cabinetry, it can be so nice, and it does add value to your home. And especially when it's something functional and versatile like that, where it gives you options.
Hmm.
So you could also build in more storage. Like, I know we were just talking about a guest space and maybe stealing some room from a laundry room, but you could also steal room for a bigger closet and have some real storage there. Maybe you need a place to put your holiday decorations and things like that, or linens for the guest room and for the other bedrooms. So there are lots of options that you could do that would also apply to the renovation side of things. Besides just buying furniture, you can't use a renovation loan to buy furniture, but you could certainly use it to build out any of those things, to paint the walls, to move electrical or windows, to do the floors. So there's lots of flexibility there to be able to use that type of financing to really make that space serve you and do what you want or need it to do. And that's probably like my favorite thing about renovation financing is that it really does open up those options for you. I know lots of the shows on TV make it seem like folks have just 50,000 sitting in the bank waiting for them to do a renovation, but that's not true for most of us. And so the renovation loan gives you the flexibility to be able to use that equity in your home to truly customize it and add value at the same time. So there are lots of options there that you could use a renovation loan to do. Another topic we were talking about was, what if you have a parent moving in? So we've been talking about kind of people moving out or maybe giving space for guests, but now you've got another family member moving into the property. Let's talk about that, Kate. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think that if you're gonna go, if you are able to go the renovation route with this, if your home is not already set up for it, I I would highly recommend that. Obviously, if you're not able to, there's other things that we can talk about, but I think being able to give that person moving in their own space and their own kind of freedom of space, big or small, is really, really, really important. Not just for the person moving in, but for you guys who are already living in that space, being able to create privacy, freedom is extremely important when you're bringing kind of like two different, we'll call them households together, because, and this could look like renovating your basement. It could look like adding, a small second dwelling to your backyard. It could be maybe you don't have a basement or the ability to add something, but you are able to take two bedrooms, at the back of the house and at least create, kind of a living room and bedroom area. So that way it's like, because I think it's really important for everybody that we're able to retire to our own space, get away, have our privacy, have time for quiet. Like, if we just want to be alone, I know, like me, like whenever I just want to be alone, I want to be alone. And I don't want to have to worry about, oh, well, mom's hanging out on the couch. So, like I think at least, designating, at least you have at least two areas. And I think too, especially when it's a parent moving in, the reason they're probably moving in is the elderly factor. I know that there are some other reasons, but let's just say that that's the most likely reason. They also still want to feel like they have their independence. So them being able to not have to be like, hey, do you care if I watch this show? Or do you care if I do this? So I think as much freedom as you're able to give them as possible is really important. Maybe that does look like a full basement renovation where you're adding a kitchenette and a bathroom and a bedroom and a living space. That's amazing for them to be able to have that. But again, even if you can do something small where maybe you only have one bedroom, but maybe it makes sense to give them the largest bedroom, because that way then they can have a small sofa and a bed, and like at least they feel like they can freely do what they want within their kind of own designated space. Because, as much as you might feel their presence, their new presence being there, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but kind of disrupting your normal way of life, they feel the same way too. You're disrupting their normal flow of life. And I think a lot of times when you're moving into someone's space, it's easy for you to feel like you're a burden, or your presence is in some way a burden. So again, being able to like have a space to retreat to and just make your own, I think is extremely important when we're talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, adding more space, even just people staying with the same family size that they had. That was probably the number one renovation request we had last year, was people adding space, whether it's finishing out an attic or building
Hmm.
an addition or a basement remodel, and accessory dwelling units. Like, after we've all been cooped up, everyone is looking for more space and places to retreat and have quiet and have time to themselves. That's for sure. Um, One of the things I was thinking about while you were talking too is that if there is an elderly situation happening, right, where you do have a family member moving in with you because they need more assistance, you could also use a renovation loan to help make your home more ADA compliant.
Yeah.
So Maybe it's that, you have some thresholds that now need to be flushed so there's no tripping hazards, or you need the shower redone so that it's can accommodate someone who needs a little bit more help. Um, Lots of changes like that can also be made with a renovation loan. We do have requests for those quite a lot. Ramps can be put in, things like that. Um, and this is one of those renovations when we're talking about adding more livable space that really does double duty, right? This is like the dream type of renovation. You're adding a lot of value to your house, you're making your house more functional and usable for your family, and really you're customizing it to your family. Um, Overall, a basement remodel like that is going to have a 70 to 80% return on investment, where you're making that really livable, usable space. And if you don't have to build an addition, being able to reclaim space like that to your square footage is going to give you the most bang for your buck. Supply costs are a little higher right now, so you would be paying a little more for lumber and things like that than you normally would. But if you do want to build an addition, another really popular option that's becoming more and more popular across the country is to build an accessory dwelling unit. So it would essentially be a small guest house in your backyard, whether it's attached to your house or not attached to your house. That's a great option as well. And more cities and towns are promoting and helping to facilitate the option to build that space. And that ultimately gives you the most space between your families, gives everybody their own area to be in. And then down the line, it could also be used as either a rental space to bring rental income in, or for maybe your kids do need to come home after college for a little bit while they're getting on their feet and saving money to buy their own house. So adding that usable space, however you use it, is always going to give you a ton of equity back in your property. Always a really great investment. And at the same time, if it can be great for your family, that's always a good thing. Another topic, and we debated talking about this one, but we said, nope, we got to leave this on. Divorce. Kate,
Yeah.
the more we talked about it, I was like, no, we've got to talk about this one. This is a good one.
Yeah, I think it's something that like makes people uncomfortable to talk about, but like it's a harsh reality. Like people get divorced, you get divorced. It's a thing, right? So I don't think it's
Hmm.
something that we wanted to shy away from talking about. And I think it's a huge moment of transition when it happens for you. And I also think that this is an excellent time to reinvent your space because you are most likely trying to reinvent yourself at the same time. So whether this was a good breakup or a bad breakup, I think we'll leave that to the side. Either way, especially if you've been married for a long time, you are now rediscovering yourself as strictly you without this other person, without having to think about this other person and their wants and needs and desires. Like it's now come to being all about you, especially if you've decided on the path of divorce, maybe after all the kids are gone. I think that that's something where it's like, okay, kids are gone, it's just me now. And that's a huge adjustment. So, a way to kind of, I think, welcome in that adjustment and, kind of signify that you're taking control of this transitionary time in your life is to update your space. And again, how do we want our space to serve us now that it's just us? Maybe you want an at home gym. Maybe you want a private office. Maybe you need a studio. Maybe you want a big bedroom now instead of one really small one. Maybe your girlfriends are like, you're a woman and your girlfriends are like from out of state and they're coming over all the time now. So you want that guest bedroom. This is really a time where you can look at your space as a whole, right? It's not necessarily just one room. I think this is because you are completely reinventing yourself and you're in a full life transition, your home should reflect that. So I would encourage, outside of the renovation aspect of this, this is a time to like really go through your stuff, especially if the breakup, the divorce was a negative one. Removing all of the items from the home that remind you of the negative relationship of your old significant other is really important. A lot of people like don't want to do that because they're like, oh, well, then I'll have to buy new stuff. Great. Sell the stuff that you have and use it to go buy the new stuff. Like you're not going to sleep on nothing for long, right? Like you have to create a space to bring new things in anyway. That's just the way it works. So I think like not feeling like you need to be attached to something, but really being at a point of like surrender here in your life and allowing yourself to just let some things go is really crucial. And then once you've allowed yourself to let go of a lot of things, now you can look at, okay, now that I've created all this space, what do I want to fill it with that like truly represents me, where I'm at now in my life, where I'm going, and what things really bring me joy.
Yeah, when we first started talking about this too, the first thing I thought about was, for anybody who's renovated or decorated a space with a partner, you know how stressful that can be. And often you have two very different design aesthetics that you're trying to merge together. And so, like you were saying, Kate, that space is going to feel like the both of you because it's all these decisions that you made together.
Hmm.
And the first room that came to my mind was the bathroom because so much of that is permanent fixtures. And I love bathroom remodels, and I would just want to be taking a sledgehammer and redoing everything. Um, we actually did a bathroom together that I like very much. But so that's nice. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is thinking. You get to make the decisions
Hmm.
on your own now, and you can really make that space what you want it to be. And the other reason I thought of bathroom is because it's a place that I think of as like self-care. It's where you are first thing in the morning, you go first thing, last thing at night. And it's a place that has a really good return on investment. So if you're doing a mid-range renovation, it's going to be in the 19K range. And that usually has about a 70% return on investment. So it's a good place to spend your money and know that you'll get it back over time. Um, I think we had one more topic, which
Yeah.
is the playroom. So kids are growing up, the playroom space, we don't really need the playroom anymore. So what are your thoughts on that, Kate?
Yeah, so I think that as your kids grow, just like as you grow, like we just talked about, or we've been talking about, is, you need to re examine the space. And I feel like I will often see when I'm working with clients when, let's say that like they have a playroom, especially if that playroom area is in the basement. It's like the kids have far outgrown the playroom, but like nothing has changed. Like it still looks like a playroom downstairs. And I'm always like, oh, like, well, tell me about this. Oh, do you have, like, do your kids use this? Oh, no, they haven't used it in years, but like, whatever. And so it's like, again, we're not, especially when that room is outside of like our regular view, right? Because I know a lot of people in larger homes, like where, when you walk in the foyer and there's like a dining room and there's usually like a den or an office to the one side, I feel like often those rooms get turned into playrooms while the kids are young. So those, I feel like those right in your face playrooms or areas usually get adjusted a little bit quicker than one that's like kind of out of everyday sight. So, like something in the basement. This doesn't mean like we don't want to cause stagnancy in our home, which relates to seeing stagnancy in our life. And so we really need to look at that playroom and say, okay, like what does this need? Maybe if it's in this basement area, maybe you're adding like a room, like a theater room or something like that, or another living room area for family. Maybe this is where you guys play games, watch movies on the weekends while your kids are a little bit older. Like maybe they're like middle school age right now, where they still kind of want to hang out with you and you want to have family time together. Maybe they've grown on to teenagers and they actually need a place to hang out with their friends. You kind of want them at your house, but you realize they don't really want to hang out with you. Having a nice kind of like additional den, living room space for them to hang out is really nice. So that might be a place that you want to add as well. Just look at, if you want to keep continuing to use it as a space for your kids, get your kids involved too. Like, hey, what would you guys want to use this space for? Have them, maybe you have the obviously the ultimate say, but maybe get them a little bit involved in how you're putting together this space and designing it, but also keeping in mind that the kids, especially if we're looking at teenage kids, they will be leaving the home soon. So maybe the changes that you make aren't so tailored to them that you have to do a full on renovation once they're gone, but you've added things with them in mind and can easily take those things away to create a more neutral space for once they're gone.
Yeah, that's great. And, a lot of things that while you're thinking about, okay, we want the goal to be, let's say, like you said, Kate, a home theater. Like we want to have a projector and a screen, and this is where we're going to come down and watch movies with the family. Well, when it comes to renovation, you could certainly use it to paint the walls a darker color, put in a rug that would absorb some of the sound, put in the surround system, move the plugs so that now you have a plug on the ceiling where you can plug in your projector. So there's lots you can do, and I think like taking that approach, looking at it, what do we need it to be as a family, and what do we have to do to get there, is just such a great way to break it up, because you can really make it digestible and figure out how you're going to use that space to serve you and your family. And so, while you're out there, whether you own a home and you're walking around thinking about the junk room that's just got a whole bunch of boxes in it, or maybe you're out looking at houses right now and you're walking through how someone else has their layout set up and it's not exactly what you'd want, just keep an open mind about it. Know that walls can be moved, things can be changed, space can be added, and you can use renovation financing to do all of that. So, great options out there for you. We'd love to hear from you guys if you have any questions about this topic, other transitions we might have missed, or different renovations that we can do. Again, my name is Victoria Dowling. I head up the renovation team here at Cross Country, and this is Kate Troyer, our Feng Shui specialist.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies. I know I learned a lot for myself, even though we're in a newer home, still looking at some of these rooms and even trying to kind of reorganize and kind of not redesign, reimagine them for new pieces. Alrighty. It looks like we actually don't seem to have any questions at this point. We do have a thank you from Miss Yvette.
Oh, thank you, Yvette.
I'll go ahead and give you guys a little bit more time, but oh yeah, great information and ideas. Thank you. So a lot of good comments coming in.
Do you have any questions, Natalie, since this is something that spoke to you and made you realize some things?
I know spoken on the side here a little bit about the projects that I have going on in my own home. And even as the projects are going a lot slower, obviously, have been in the middle of, as we're doing something, realizing, like maybe this might work a little bit better. Like initially in a room upstairs I was dead set that we needed to have a guest room in there. But in reality, it would work better for one of our music rooms, or, it's a general hobby room. And we have a very small extra bedroom downstairs that was just kind of, who knew what we could do with it? Doesn't even have a door on it. So kind of through our conversations, I started reimagining it and looking at it more possibly like that could be our guest room with like a pull-out couch, but we could also have like a TV in there and make it a secondary den. So not really too many questions, but more or less sparking ideas in my own noggin.
Good. Love it.
Well, it looks like we don't have any questions, but I do thank you ladies for joining us once again on our webinar series.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. We'll have another webinar next month, so be on the lookout for the invite.
See you guys. Thank you.